Welcome to Hood Champion Boxing and Sports. In boxing, you find a way to win or you find a way to lose. Is the secret society falling apart? That's the question. Now, if this is your first time to the channel, consider subscribing. A little donation, it'll be appreciated. Look, man, this is something that I find very interesting. Very, very interesting. So what you got here, with all these fights going on in Saudi Arabia, and look, I'm not complaining. I think it's amazing. We're seeing a lot of the fights that we want to see. But my thing is, we know there are key decision makers behind the scenes who sometimes influence the outcomes of fights. A lot of times these things are discussed before the two combatants even get in the ring. And at the end of the day, it all comes down to betting, to gambling, okay? Now, when you take a look at what's going on over there in Saudi Arabia, I gotta be honest with you. I tend to think that Turki Al-Sheikh is a man of integrity. I'm gonna be honest with you. The more I pay attention, the more I listen to him talk, the more I say, oh, there's nobody gonna come over to Saudi and fix a fight. If they do that, that's something that they're doing, under the nose of Turki Al-Sheikh. But he's not dumb. He can look and see if, okay, something's not right here. And I truly believe that when it comes to the secret society, there's certain entities who are part of that group who are like, you know what? Taking the fights out there to Saudi is a good thing because of the type of money that's being made. But I definitely think that there's a percentage of people who are involved with the secret society who are like, nah, we don't like it because now we can't sit here and fix the fights the way we want to. Now you take a look at Tyson Fury and Ngannou and what happened. Who would have guessed that Tyson Fury would have got knocked down by Ngannou? Okay. Now, just imagine if that fight had taken place in the States or somewhere else where, Turki Al-Sheikh wasn't the guy putting up all the money. You see, he's the one putting up the money, so he controls things. Win, lose, draw with fighters, he doesn't care. He just wants to see a great fight. But when the promoters have to put up their money, because see, the promoter takes all the risk. So now you got it to where Eddie Hearn, Frank Warren, even, Al Haymon is not involved, but if he was involved, it's not their money going up. But when it is their money, especially if you have somebody who's fronting the money to them or coming in and giving them, helping them make the difference, right? And whatever money's needed to put the fight on. Well, now these people often, have an interest to make sure that fight does well. Or even if it doesn't, that they get a return on their investment. And that's where the corruption takes place. That's where the fight fixing takes place. That's where you see a guy who's never been knocked down get knocked down. A guy who isn't really hurt and the referee stops the fight. That's where you see weird things happen in certain rounds. Or a fight that really shouldn't go to distance goes a distance. Or that not supposed to go a distance ends up in a knockout. Those are the things that make you stop and say, someone's taking it to the stupid. And we've seen that happen. From Rolly Romero against Barroso to what was that fight we just saw where everybody was like, okay, this is Virgil Ortiz and the Ghanaian fighter. Makes you wonder what the hell's going on. So that being said, when it comes to Saudi Arabia, I think when it comes to the secret society, I'm always talking about that. I definitely think there are certain individuals just like, I don't know about this stuff. This whole thing going over to Saudi Arabia. And I definitely think that gambling and fight fixing has a whole lot to do with it. It boils down to money. Now, the other thing that I feel is eventually going to start to affect fighters, right, is how they have all these different human rights groups that are trying to put pressure on boxers who choose to go fight in Saudi Arabia. Because the bottom line is this. As Saudi Arabia continues to grow and become what I'm going to predict as a sporting powerhouse, right? As they continue to grow, there's going to be more and more attention on it. And you got to understand, Saudi Arabia, they've had a lot of different sports over there, from race car driving, golfing, different things, right? Soccer. But when it comes to boxing, I mean, they have the biggest names involved in the sport of boxing, at least in the heavyweight division right now. You can see they're trickling their way down to the other weight divisions. But they're looking to pull the biggest names over to Saudi, to keep those guys fighting, and then bring other faces over there and to get them going. When that stuff really takes off, it's already on its way, but it hasn't taken off yet. But when it takes off, I think there's going to be even more attention on the fighters who are going over there. And I think you're going to see a lot of questions and a lot of these human rights groups, not only in the Middle East, but also in America, that's going to run up to these fighters and put a microphone in their face. And it's going to be like, hey, we know you're fighting over there. Obviously, there's a lot of money, but you as a fighter, have you taken time to examine these disturbing human right violations and the disturbing human right record of what's going on over in Saudi Arabia, and how people are being, basically violated and murdered? And see, that's where I think when you look at the secret society, I think some of those guys are like, no, we don't need that kind of attention on us. And then I also think when it comes to some fighters, I think when they start getting that pressure put on them, it can make them, it could discourage them, make them feel a little uncomfortable. I mean, they've already tried it. They tried it with Tyson Fury. They even criticized Anthony Joshua when he was going over to Saudi Arabia. Remember when he went over there to fight, I think it was like 2018, 19 maybe, 19? Andy Ruiz. He got criticized big time for going over there. And then, Eddie Hearn too, but Fast Eddie is a mouthpiece. But Eddie Hearn, one thing about Eddie Hearn, sometimes he doesn't know when to shut up. But when these kind of conversations come up and he has those pointed questions thrown at him about human rights violations in Saudi Arabia and people being murdered, how do you feel? He's very succinct in his responses. And Eddie Hearn is media trained. Anthony Joshua is media trained. They don't get caught up in that. They do not get caught up with that. They have a group out there called Amnesty International. And let me tell you something. Those guys, or that group in particular, look, man, they're all over these fighters who are coming over there, man, trying to have these huge clashes in Saudi Arabia for huge money. Now, what I will say is the way they have it structured right now, I think the way the Saudis have it structured is great, because they're dealing with Frank Warren and they're dealing with Eddie Hearn. They really aren't, and Bob Arum, but whatever. But for the most part, the guys they're dealing with, they're on the same wavelength. They understand, okay, hold on. We don't have to assume any risk here except provide the fighters. No money out of our pockets. Just whatever Turki Al-Sheikh wants. We just have to make sure it happens, but he's putting up the money. He's assuming the risk. Well, great. So they're not trying to mess that up, because basically they just arrange the fighters. They're getting free money. They don't have to do anything. They're getting free money. But I think when you look at a guy like Oscar De La Hoya, right? And Bob Arum's over there chilling. Bob Arum he's inextricably connected in all the bullshit too. But could you imagine if they bring someone in like Oscar De La Hoya? See, this is why they're smart with the promoters they have involved. De La Hoya went out there already. He was in Saudi Arabia for the, I think it was the Tyson Fury Ngannou fight, where they had all those different boxers over there, man, all those legends. So Oscar's been to Saudi. So for him to come back and to America and say that, that not all big fights should go to Saudi. I mean, I don't really disagree with what he's saying, but I kind of think he should listen a whole lot and talk very little when he starts getting ready to talk that kind of crap, because he shot himself in the foot, because he really doesn't have any none of his options are better than going to Saudi right now when it comes to trying to make the most money for Golden Boy for his fighters. But that being said, you get a guy like Oscar De La Hoya over there, and who you don't know what he may or may not say. Oscar may be over there, man, and just have the opportunity to be the fly on the wall and be part of some conversations where he comes back, and all of a sudden, he decides he wants to, get in front of a camera and start to say some things that maybe Turki Al-Sheikh will end up regretting having ever shared with him. But when it comes to Golden Boy, look, I'm going to tell you what the biggest issue is? Frank Warren Queensberry. They've been working with the Saudis for a while. They understand the protocol. They get their marching orders, and they execute. Eddie Hearn, they're working with the Saudis for a while. They get their marching orders. Matchroom executes. Top Rank, been working with the Saudis for a while. They get the marching orders. They execute. Golden Boy has not. But even if they did, I think Oscar De La Hoya, who's basically begging and pleading for Turki Al-Sheikh to invite him over to have some of his fighters fight this so Golden Boy can make some money. I think the biggest issue isn't really Oscar De La Hoya when it comes to Golden Boy. I think it's Bernard Hopkins. Could you imagine if Bernard Hopkins was coming out of a building, a gym, maybe he was bringing his ass out of Waffle House, right? Could you imagine if Bernard Hopkins was coming out of Waffle House and TMZ reporters were the TMZ reporters were sitting outside waiting for him. And as soon as Bernard Hopkins came out, they rushed him. Bernard, Bhop, Bernard, we know you're a legend in the sport of boxing, but we got to ask, you're a partner with Golden Boy and you guys are over there and you're working intimately with the Saudis with boxing. Hey, have you took time to examine the disturbing human rights violations and issues that are ongoing in the country? How do you feel about that? How do you feel being over in the country working with murderers and killers? Bhop, what do you have to say? And then, oh shit, Bernard Hopkins gets a hold of that microphone because Bernard Hopkins has never seen a microphone that he didn't like. If Bernard Hopkins gets an opportunity to start yipping and yapping, oh Lord have mercy. Oh my God, shit can go terrible. Bernard Hopkins would be like, well, inky pinky ponky. The Saudis bought a donkey. The donkey died. The Saudis cried. Inky pinky ponky. That TMZ reporter would be like, what the F did he just say? Because that's what I hear when Bernard Hopkins starts talking on a microphone. I don't know what the hell he be talking about. When Bernard Hopkins gets a microphone put in front of him and he starts trying to sound philosophical and articulate his thoughts, all I hear is inky pinky ponky. Daddy bought a donkey. The donkey died. Daddy cried. Inky pinky ponky. Horrible. But that being said, secret society, I don't know, man. I think they're trying to sort things out. Because as much as the Saudis are trying to push forward, because it's sports washing. You know what I'm saying? I know the Saudis are trying to revamp their judicial system. They're trying to make some changes, but the bottom line is they have a poor human rights record, right? And I really don't have an opinion on what's going on over there. It ain't really my business. I lived out there for a little while, but I mean, that's their country, their laws, and it is what it is. But I do think fighters are going to start to be urged to use their platforms to draw attention to what some people feel is the plight of the people of Saudi Arabia. And I think that's going to create some issues and can help. It can result in fragmenting the secret society, and kind of what their objectives are. That being said, secret society falling apart right before our eyes, people. I think there's definitely some turbulence within the secret society from not being able to fix the fights they want because Turki Al-Sheikh has integrity, and he's not gonna let that corruption. Look? He can't allow that to happen in Saudi Arabia. With everything that he's trying to do, Turki Al-Sheikh can't afford to have a black eye on the kingdom of Saudi Arabia. He's not gonna do that, and the secret society can't make him do anything. This is what you call a shot caller, a Saudi shot caller. You know what I'm saying? So that being said, we'll see how it goes. But I truly believe that we're going to start to see something happen here, especially if this year really starts to bubble up the way they're projecting. If the boxing in Saudi really takes off this year, you're going to see more and more articles, more and more interviews, more and more discussions about Saudi and boxing and the biggest names in boxing and over there. And, they're going to go all the way back and talk about they had this name over there, that name over there, the human rights violations, and, and there's no integrity in boxing, the corruption and this and the murder. Watch, they're gonna make this into, it's going to snowball into something that I don't think Turki Al-Sheikh and the Saudis really want to hear about and deal with. And they already did it with the small ball sports. You know what I'm saying? Small ball, something like golf and tennis. It was a big fallout over those guys going over to Saudi Arabia and participating. But at the end of the day, money talks, BS walks. So if they get wind of certain things that are going to come out that could put a unwanted black eye on what the Saudis are trying to do, I think they can find a way to resolve that with the quickness. But that being said, y'all keep cool. I'm in the breeze.